Hello everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's Lydia Joy here. I am popping by today to share with you a little bit about the adrenal connection to copper imbalance. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a nutritional therapy practitioner as well as the co-creator of the Holistic Mineral Balancing Program, and I've been working with hair analysis and mineral balancing in my practice for the last several years with hundreds and hundreds of clients. And I have seen this specific thing with pretty much everyone. And so I know that it is pervasive of an issue, and I want to talk about it today because I feel like, I can bring some insight to you as a practitioner. If you're not a practitioner, you're watching, I'm sure you're going to learn something too. So obviously, when we start talking about adrenals, we have to talk about stress, right? And I'll tell you a little bit about me. I am a single mom, and I've had a lot of stress in my life, including the stress that led to me becoming a single mom. And I have 4 boys. And so I'm going to just keep that part brief, but the period of my life that led to my own, sorry, my camera's having some issues here, guys, sorry. It's still slipping. Yikes. Okay, I apologize. What led to adrenal burnout for me was a myriad of things, just like it is for everyone. But a couple of things. One was definitely an emotional stressor in my life for many, many years. So emotional stress, mental stress, that can lead to weaken your adrenal health and your overall health, and as well as just physical stress. Every day in and day out in this culture, we all have that to some level or another, not to mention a lack of appropriate nutrition and all these toxins. And you guys probably already know full well all the key things that lead to stress and how there's numerous moving parts, right? So as you can imagine, the majority of people who you're going to work with, or even yourself, will have a mineral burnout to varying degrees or another, right? And one of the things that is so interesting to me, and I want to make some connections for you in regards to really for anyone, but if you're really working with someone to support their adrenals so they can have better energy and overall health, it's really interesting to understand that stress also burns through our minerals really, really quickly. So we have to have them in the first place. Most of us don't. We don't get enough in our diet. They're definitely not in our soil. And one of those key minerals, in light of what I want to share today, is zinc. So did you know that your body actually burns through zinc really fast during any fight or flight or stress? We actually just pee it right out. And most people don't even know that. And the modern diet today that people are eating is really, really zinc poor. Okay, so our adrenal glands really need zinc. That's a big mineral. It needs a lot of things, but I'm just going to talk about zinc today. So we get this depletion of zinc, and that leads to even more issues over time. And so when we have adrenal burnout, another thing that I want to talk about that can happen is it can cause copper imbalance. And one of the reasons is zinc and copper really need to be in an appropriate balance in the body. And when we have less zinc, it's easier for our copper to accumulate. So we really need healthy adrenal gland activity for another purpose, which is because when we have healthy adrenal glands, we can make proteins in our body. And one of the proteins that we need specifically is called ceruloplasmin. Bear with me on some of the nerdy stuff here, you guys, but it's important to explain. This ceruloplasmin it's basically a copper transporter protein that's made in the liver. So without ceruloplasmin, we can't properly use our copper or take it where it needs to go. And this is important because We need copper. Copper is a mineral that we actually need. You probably don't hear about copper very much. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard about zinc and you know the importance of zinc, but maybe you don't know a whole lot about copper. Well, copper is a very important mineral that we need, but we don't need a lot of it. And the thing about copper to know is that it has to be properly regulated. So here's the big problem is what happens is we end up with a big copper imbalance when we have weak adrenal glands because we can't make the ceruloplasmin when we need to take the copper where it's supposed to go and get rid of any excess. So let's go backwards for 1 second. The first thing I talked about was how stress burns through our zinc, right? So, and then I told you how we need to have zinc and copper in this important balance. Well, if we don't have the ability to make enough ceruloplasmin to take care of the copper, we have an even bigger problem. So what will happen is if we can't utilize and transport our copper properly because we're not making the ceruloplasmin, because our adrenals are weak, because we're burned out from stress and we don't have any zinc, what's going to happen is it will accumulate in the body. It can accumulate in your tissues and it can accumulate in your organs. And the other thing is when we're in this adrenal burnout pattern, which most people are, by the way, our liver, our adrenals aren't healthy enough to signal to our livers to make the ceruloplasmin, which is a normal function of our body. But the more burned out we get, the less it makes, the less it makes, the less it makes. So then we have this big accumulation. So we can't detoxify the copper either. So we build it up and we build it up and we build it up. Well, what happens when we build it up? Well, when copper accumulates in the body, for one thing, your metabolism slows down. When your metabolism slows down, your energy slows down. And so when I'm talking about adrenal burnout or burnout, I'm not talking about just like people getting burned out from a little bit of stress. I'm talking about like deep burnout where the fatigue just doesn't go away. Like you go on a vacation, you take a breather, and you come back and you're still tired. You're still burned out. So every single day, this is what happens. And this is like the majority of society, you guys, right? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking around and I just see everyone like getting their coffee and getting their afternoon pick-me-up drinks and all the sugar. And we're just kind of collectively in this pattern of mineral burnout, adrenal burnout, and a lot of people have an imbalance and excess of copper in the body. So I have seen so many hair mineral analysis, which is one of the big ways that this can be assessed for people, as well as partnered with some blood work, a little bit of blood work, to really find out a clearer picture of what's going on for each person. But I want to list a couple of things, like some key things that what will happen to a person who has copper imbalance. So where it's actually in accumulation stored in the body and the body's having a hard time getting rid of it. Now remember, we do need it. We do need copper, but we don't need a lot of copper for our health. We just need a little bit. And the key problem that ends up occurring in adrenal burnout, like where people are just struggling with fatigue and wired and tired and all these things, is that your body can't do what it's supposed to do with the copper. It can't regulate it, it can't use it, it can't get rid of the excess. So here are some of the big symptoms that you'll connect with. And if you don't know the signs of adrenal burnout, first, let me just tell you what some of those are. Maybe you don't even know. So, somebody who has really serious adrenal fatigue will tend to have lower blood pressure. They will tend to have maybe hypoglycemia. They will tend to crave salt. There'll be more fatigue, those kinds of things. That's more of a really major adrenal fatigue. But they could start to recover a little bit and think they're getting better, but they could still have the copper problem. So it's important to know as a practitioner, because this isn't something you're going to learn in other functional nutrition circles unless they're tapping into the mineral piece. So I'm kind of sharing this with you because it's so important, and it's so huge to really dig deeper and help people pull out of that deeper fatigue. Because the truth is most people, it can take some time to really truly support the body to a point where you're recovered from the symptoms of copper. Okay, so without further, copper. So when copper accumulates in the body, and this is what I'm talking about in correlation with adrenal burnout, here's what can occur: anxiety, and this is really pervasive. This is huge. So many people struggle with anxiety. The tired and wired thing, and it just kind of never goes away. People feel tired, they feel wired, they can't regulate their energy well. That makes you feel a little angsty. That can bring on the anxiety right there. Easily upset and emotional. Mood swings. It can be as severe as mania or depression. That's definitely a correlation to adrenal burnout and copper. And it can get pretty intense if it's really exacerbated in an individual, to things like anger and violence, and even mental illness. So as far as ADHD, bipolar, things like that, it can be pretty serious. Another thing that is a big one, and it's really annoying, and I experienced this myself, is concentration and memory problems. Now, I know that this one is not something people want to share because they're embarrassed. I know for me, when I had concentration memory problems, I felt really stupid. I felt genuinely dumb. I couldn't even think of how to spell the word the. Like, my brain was so fogged over and so heavy that I couldn't even think of the most simplistic things, and it was embarrassing. But it's real. It's a real physiological side effect of this. And then strong self-criticism, just tapping into the emotional side of the mental side of this can be huge and very liberating for people. Headaches and migraines is another one. And then that whole tiredness and exhaustion that you just can't ever seem to recover from. Insomnia, poor immune response, skin problems, hair loss, yeast infections, that's a big one. I work with a lot of women on that one. And then it can be correlated with high estrogen and joint and aches and pains. So that's a pretty hefty list of symptoms that, because it's connected to this deeper burnout and the adrenal fatigue, and then that copper excess stored in the body, it can just have that much of an impact on you. So you can see how important it would be if your clients are not getting enough relief from those kinds of things with other support. Maybe they've cleaned up their diet, maybe they started to improve their digestion, maybe they're getting some basic key nutrients, maybe they've even started getting vitamin A and stuff we don't get in the modern diet, but they're still struggling. This is when understanding this part of adrenal burnout, adrenal fatigue, weakened adrenal activity, and the connection to copper imbalance really that's built up in the body, and the body just needs to be able to release it, but it's due to its weakened state is very difficult to do. So it takes a specific kind of approach to really deal with this on a deeper level, and that's something that I wanted to stop by and share just so you're aware. And so for those of you who really want to learn more, we do have the Holistic Mineral Balancing Program that you can look into, but we also just recently shared a webinar that maybe you can just whet your appetite for learning more with, and I'll make sure I give you the link for that so you can check that out. But if you guys are watching this video and this is something that you learned something today, or you have questions and you want to learn more, just pop it in the comments below for me. If you're watching on the replay, please type in #replay. We'll get back to you. Also, this is a topic that I really want to delve into more because it's kind of complex and it's really pervasive, and I want to make sure that it gets talked about enough because I know that it's not being shared in a lot of functional nutrition circles. Because minerals just aren't sexy yet, you guys, and I'm really on a mission to just make them, make this whole mineral balancing aspect of digging into people's health be, something that people really are paying more attention to. All right, with all that shared, thank you so much for watching. I will be back next Tuesday with more, so I definitely appreciate any feedback you do have because it'll help me make more targeted content for you and support you more effectively when I come back and share more. All right, thanks so much for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, guys.